is lesbian corrective rape. Lesbian corrective rape is a huge problem in South Africa, particularly within the township and rural areas. Today, people are gathered here from all different communities protesting lesbian corrective rape. And also just homophobia within government in general, because Africa at the moment has been swept by a wave of homophobia.
I'm very touched here today, and in particular the fact that men and women, lesbians and gay guys are standing up together and fighting for a cause. This is something that we've only seen in the late 1980s, in the early 90s in San Francisco, when men were dying of AIDS, were the lesbians who were actually helping. And it's now turning that everybody is standing together.
I suppose in the wake of yet another lesbian dying in KwaZulu-Natal, you would think that with the death of Unokola, things would kind of quieten down, but things did not quieten down. A 13-year-old has been raped, so clearly our voices have not been heard enough. So we needed to come out to Parliament to say, look, please do something, go out into the public and tell people that it's completely unacceptable to kill, rape, beat up members of the LGBTIA community.
It's one thing to complain about everything that's happening, but unless you actually take action and you actually show up for protests like these, you can't expect things to change.
It is important for us as a gay community to stand with our sisters and our brothers, those that have been hurt, to make sure that this thing doesn't happen.
We are in here solidarity for our sisters who've been abused and raped for corrective rape. We believe it's the wrong thing to do. You cannot make someone straight by rape. As a gay male, I know it's very hard to imagine what it must be like. I wouldn't want to be raped, neither would ladies, especially to have them corrected. We all should stand together. Us and the whole of Africa must be unified against this problem.
As a survivor of hate crime,
do you want it over the horse?
As much as it happened to me 7-8 years ago, it's still not over. Yes, I've dealt with it, but it still hurts like it happened yesterday or it happened today. Whenever I hear of a lesbian that being raped, whenever I hear of a trans person that has been abused because of the sexual orientation, it hurts like hell. How do we live in a community that ostracizes?
Okay, well, it's common sense to let someone be a fellow human being, be what they are, whatever they think, express themselves. I mean, we all want that right. It's actually a human right to be what you want to be.
I think it's really important to see how the voices of black lesbian women historically in this country particularly have emerged over the last decades and before, and are part of what we're seeing here today. And I think one of the critical campaigns that really started pushing the issue of violence against black lesbian women is the Rose as Thorns campaign, which was an initiative of the Forum of the Empowerment of Women. And I think Zanele has been one of the key activists in that process, and I think it's really important to talk about what's changed. I mean, what do you think has changed? How far do you think we've come? And what still needs to be done?
You know, I'm worried. I'm really worried because it seems as if we're speaking to ourselves. The government that we're supposed to be working together with is not here. And it doesn't matter whether it's Sunday or Monday. And also to say a lot of women, they are losing their daughters, they are losing, and people are losing their spouses, their partners due to hate crimes. The whole issue now, or the main major thing, is to make sure that we mobilize our families to come and fight the struggle. To say we're coming here as lesbians is not enough, because when one of us dies or one of us is killed, the family gets involved as well. So this is painful, and also to say a lot of black lesbians, they don't even reach age 30 because of hate crimes. People die young. Nokolo was 24 and she left behind 2 young children. What happens to those children afterwards? What happens? She's dead, she's been killed, we know she's been violated. And you find that the grandmother has to look after these children now. And how will you even explain hate crimes to these kids when they grow older? And will our government be accountable to ensure that they raise these kids, you know, and have at least a better future? What will happen? What will happen after hate crime is what I don't know. But what I know now is that people are being killed because of their sexuality. And worst of all, we have laws that's supposed to protect us, you know, as LGBT communities. But it's not happening. And to say there's a new task team formed to fight hate crimes, for God's sake, people have been killed. People have been raped repeatedly. Some of them have been raped more than once. And how many case numbers do we have?
But women are being raped with impunity in the South African context. The Sexual Offences Act is in place. Government is not implementing it. The Domestic Violence Act is in place. Government is not implementing it. So for me, it's like women, what happens to women's bodies across the board doesn't matter. Women's bodies are not worth dignity. Women's bodies are not worth protection. And if they're violated, it's just part of the status quo. So for me, it's part of, you know, it's like understanding the violence that's used against lesbian women and trans men and other LGBT people within the context of the rampant violence. Because we're living in a patriarchal system where sexism is part of the mother tongue in a sense, and it's okay from Jacob Zuma down to violate women's bodies, to buy women, to have access to women's bodies indiscriminately,
and get away with it, and easily get away with it. So these perpetrators, maybe they look upon our opinion leaders, and if a public figure, you know, a person with a high position in this country get away with rape, any other person will think that it's okay to do it because they'll get away with it. So in a way, I see us, you know, dealing with a system or fighting a system that favors men, especially rapists and murderers.
And that protects those men.
You know, and a lot of babies who have not even been exposed to anything are raped and get infected in this country.
And these are not men who are hiding behind the bushes here that we don't know. These are our brothers, these are our fathers, these are our cousins. These are the men who we are living with in our own homes, in our own communities.
Neighbors.
So they are not monstrous men out there.
Or strangers,
are
no.
Pathological. It is your average run-of-the-mill garden variety male that's actually raping and murdering in this country. And that's the most frightening thing. And partly why they do it is because there's a general acceptability of men being, you know, in a position of power over women. And men's, you know, wherever you look, you see naked women, you see women being used as a commodity, and all of that is entirely acceptable. And that's the culture that has to change. So I think we're talking about radical change. We're not talking about, you know, isolated legislation that's going to target the monsters who rape and murder us. It's actually about changing a system that's fundamentally unjust and that fundamentally undermines women's right to dignity and a right to decide what they do with their bodies, when, how, and why. So it's massive change, and I think, you know, yeah.
And what's exciting with the group today, we are a mixed group, which is so rare. You know, maybe some people don't identify as activists as such, but people are being conscientized in different ways, and they really see the need of coming together and deal with an issue that affects us all. And we all praying that this will come to an end. But when? I don't know.
This action is required to say, stop and reckon we have a problem. It goes beyond just being a lesbian, it goes beyond being gay. It's an issue of gender-based violence in this country that our government refuses to acknowledge, and we need to say enough is enough. Amandla! Amandla!
Hate crimes suck. They really, really suck. They need to stop.